when are you so-called lawyers going to actually do something about it? Well, here's what we do. We are the Armed Attorneys. Today we are offering another episode of Sidebar with the Armed Attorneys. We have our bar available, and we are here to answer your questions that we solicited.
Cut new Emmy talking.
We solicitationed your questions.
Pretty sure that's a crime.
It's hard out here for a pimp. Don't you know it's hard out here for a pimp?
For all the Johns,
Hustle and flow.
For all the Johns that submitted questions.
We've got you today. Jen, don't cut any of this. This is fine. It's Sidebar. Anything goes. Here we go. Before we get started, show your support for the Second Amendment. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Sonoran Desert Institute. Give them a shout at www.sdi.edu/armed-attorneys. It's a lot easier to remember that before the breakfast champagne. But here we are. Great group, good information. Go give them a click. All right. Where do you want to start?
All right.
You want to pick the first one?
Sure.
We got your questions.
So
we asked.
Yeah, we asked a bunch of questions. We decided that we were going to pick.
We asked for a bunch of questions.
And we got some pretty hilarious ones, a couple serious ones, and then a few personal ones. So we're going to have these all sprinkled in. I think it's going to be a fun conversation. But I want to start with the first one, which I don't have word for word. I don't know. I
have it.
Do you want to pull it up?
Do you want that one?
Yeah, I want that one.
All right. This is
this has to do with
perhaps my most favorite question we've gotten in quite some time.
The ATF's, when the ATF is acting within the scope of its authority, and we've seen this repeated behavior over and over again. And how do we see the rules actually implemented on the streets? And the question is
at Timme, very good, 4654 asks, hypothetically, if a person has a large cat that could be mistaken as a dog, is the AFT allowed to open fire upon it? So again, we're talking about a mistake of fact issue here. So
it's possible.
That's good. You had that one ready to go.
I did not. That happened like the moment I took a sip of my drink. Boom. That's when genius strikes.
I liked it.
I do my best legal work at a .08.
Don't tell people that.
I'm just saying.
I used to, when I was a prosecutor, like sometimes I would sit down.
That was my joke to defense attorneys.
I would sit down over margaritas and do prosecutors, you put recommendations. Yeah, I was reckon.
Yeah.
So you put recommendations for punishment on cases. And I would have to go back at docket and be like, ooh, I was real mad at that guy for reasons I don't want to disclose. But let's fix that recommendation, because you get to 2 margaritas in and all of a sudden you're like,
I did not take my work home with me. I'm going to be completely. Oh, God, no.
Oh, see, I screw around too much in the office. I had to.
Yeah.
I had to.
Yeah. That all. But all right, back to the question at hand. Can the ATF kill your cat? I think the answer is be careful.
I am a cat person.
Boo.
I am. It's not that I don't like dogs. It's that I have 2 children and dogs are a lot of work. And Richard is looking at me like his German Shepherd hasn't jumped through windows or had massive diarrhea blowouts all over their house on a weekly basis.
He's a good boy, though, generally.
I am a cat person.
Sure.
I am a cat. I'm not anti-dog.
But you're a cat person that loves cats, unlike Edwin Walker, who's a cat person who hates cats.
Yeah, his poor cats.
We should let us know in the comment section below if you'd like Edwin Walker to join us on a sidebar, because he's got some stories.
He does, although Edwin Walker cannot be controlled when he is dead sober, and I am moderately uncomfortable with putting drinks in him and then putting him on camera.
Yeah. All right, next question. Have we seen armed attorney content show up in prosecutions of cases?
Right. Interesting. I never, ever, 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 ever want to see that. So
no.
Do not leave your armed attorney mugs out in your house where you shot someone. Do not have your, computer background screen as my face, because
you're just inviting it at this point.
Oh, don't do that.
We have seen scenarios where we see 2A content show up at crime scenes.
Yes, and that sucks. So I have had cases in which the police made big deals about the person's like 3%er
Yeah.
paraphernalia and all the like, gosh, uh, all of my clients have a Gadsden flag hanging up somewhere in their house, and that is always an issue, which it shouldn't
Shouldn't
be.
be.
Shouldn't be. Not saying it should be, but it is.
Why do you hate the First Amendment?
And the second,
Sure.
and the fourth.
Sure.
Hey, just
But no.
list off the amendments.
You're an author of a book.
I am, in fact, an author of a book.
And that
As are you.
And that book has been found at a crime scene before.
That it has.
That stinks.
That stinks. It is really unpleasant if you shoot someone and then I am trying to represent you, and one of the pieces of evidence is a book telling you how you're allowed to shoot someone.
Yeah. If you're interested in the book, don't buy it right now because the next edition's about to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't do that. But yes.
But we have seen.
But it's never come into play in front of a jury. Like, the information gets kept out. It's not been armed attorney content in the past. It's
the only other thing that makes me think about this, and if you're a regular viewer, then this isn't news to you, but the armed attorneys recently got cited in a court of criminal appeals case.
We did.
As bringing notoriety to a really tragic set of circumstances for a guy and one party. It wasn't our case, but that stuff showed up. Interesting question. Worth talking about.
Yeah.
All right. Question. Are y'all married to each other?
Oh, yes. This gets asked a lot. The answer is no, we are not. Although I will say, I guess weirdly, is it weird? I don't know if it's weird. There are pictures of Richard and my husband like playing together as toddlers.
Yeah, we've known each other forever.
Yes, they have known each other literally forever. Their entire lives. But no, married to different people.
Married to different people. All right.
Shout out Richard's wife. She is
thebomb.com.
Thebomb.com.
All right. What happens? Okay, here. You might want to read this one word for word.
Well, I'll start with, you guys are awesome. Love it. Thank you.
Emily, stop. Stop
it. What happens? Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry. Champagne mishap. Can the ATF just not obey the court ruling on pistol braces? What happens if they just decide to not obey the law and continue to prosecute SBRs under their rule? Richard, what's the answer?
Well, it sounds like that we wouldn't have a country at that point.
Yes, the answer to that is it is possible. That is called a constitutional crisis, because that is
neat
constitutional crisis. That is a branch, because technically the ATF is executive branch, right? I mean, they're a regulatory agency, but they operate under the executive.
Yep.
That is one branch of the three branches given big old middle fingers to another branch, which is the judiciary. When that happens, what happens to us as a country? Revolution, civil war. I mean, honestly, truly, we've never had a true constitutional crisis in this country. That is...
we got one. Somebody wouldn't deliver some letters on their way out of the presidency.
That's true. If you ask like the New York Times or the Atlantic, we have had just so many constitutional crises in the last, 5 years?
We have one like every year.
Yeah.
According to them.
According to them. But no, we've never had a true constitutional crisis in this country. That is a terrifying prospect. Let's hope that
Civil
we do
war.
not. Oh, yeah. Well, there wasn't.
Here's the problem with when I have people.
That's a constitutional crisis.
Well, I retract that. I think that a constitutional crisis is when you have factions competing over the same government. Whereas
I think it's when the three branches disregard one another. I think that's the definition.
Yeah, but the Civil War, I'm saying, is not a constitutional crisis because we don't have people fighting for the same government. They're fighting for different governments.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Let's fit this one in here because it doesn't really fit anywhere else. Any Rahimi updates? Answer: not really. We listened to the oral arguments. I don't think that Rahimi's attorney did a particularly good job. I think we'll get an opinion next summer. I don't like it.
No, I don't think the opinion is going to be good for the Second Amendment.
So, and I go back and forth because we see a lot of gun tubers and
just gonna drown my tears in champagne right now.
DOJ defeated, Second Amendment riots come rolling in. This is going to be an enigma wrapped in a mystery, and I have no idea what's going to happen.
That's very dramatic.
It is.
That's very dramatic.
You think that's dramatic?
An enigma wrapped in a mystery.
All right.
Cue the fog
Next
and the
question.
mist and the black and white. Oh, so drama.
Who is the better shot?
All right. Who is the better shot? What's your opinion?
I'm better at everything than shotguns.
Okay, that's my opinion too.
Is it really?
That is my opinion too.
Oh, wow.
Okay, this is an Emily problem. I am right-handed. I am left eye dominant. And that just sucks because I can try to learn how to shoot left-handed, which I've really avoided doing because that's going to suck.
Yeah.
And so my solution is like cocking my head at this weird angle when I'm trying to like pistol shoot in order to properly aim with both eyes open, which I know is what I should be doing. And it just sucks. And I get fatigued really fast. And it just ends in me being not as good a shot as Richard, except I can murder a clay pigeon.
You can murder a clay pigeon.
I am really good at that. I don't know why that's different, but it is.
Yeah.
It just is. I think it's
I used to be okay at pigeon.
Like the moving target is all instinct. It's not like calculation.
So are you saying that you are a proud lioness hunting? I'm just kidding.
Well, I didn't say it.
I used to be okay at pigeons. It's been a little while though.
Yeah. No, you definitely got to keep it up. It's a practiced skill.
Next question. Does Richard ride motorcycles? If what kind?
I love this question because what about Richard Scream's motorcycle to you guys?
Yeah, seriously. I'm like a nerd.
Is it?
All right. So no, I have a ton of motorcycle club clients though.
Sure.
And I've written bills to help motorcycle folks.
Sure.
But no, I don't ride a motor. I'm a golf cart kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like to pretend I'm a retired person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've only been on a motorcycle once in my entire life.
Interesting.
And it was quasi against my will.
Yeah.
It was not. It was like
you got captured and placed on a motorcycle and driven somewhere?
Okay, so I was dating this guy, and I think you know who he is because he's gigantic and scary.
Oh,
He's also an island person. And this person was this is obviously long before my life now. He was a person of motorcycle.
Now he's more of a Barbie kind of guy.
Yes, that is true.
If you dig, you'll know who we're talking about.
Oof. Oh, I don't care for that at all. I was promised as my first motorcycle ride, which I reluctantly agreed to, just like a quick jaunt around the block.
Mm-hmm.
And what was delivered was
evading from the police on a major highway in Houston.
Honestly, if that had happened, I at least would have had a goddamn ride home. Because what happened was getting on I-10 in Houston to go to some bar that, first of all, don't take Emily to a biker bar. Just don't. Just don't. I want to say, yeah, I used to be young. I used to be cool. I used to be like, ooh, dive bar. Heck yeah, give me a Coors Light. Now I'm like, I would like a glass of white wine. I would like it to be Sauvignon Blanc. I would like
the music is at 60 decibels.
Well, do you know what I'm talking about? Do you watch Parks and Rec?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
I'll send it back.
Rob Lowe. I am. Here we are.
Yeah.
I'm not cool anymore. Yes, we got to the bar after a ride on I-10, and I was probably the angriest I have ever been in my entire life.
But you didn't get arrested. You escaped the evading.
And I didn't die.
Sure.
Helmetless on Interstate 10 in Houston going 80 miles an hour on the back of a motorcycle.
That's not fun.
I didn't die.
All right, this one is directed at you, and it showed up kind of a lot.
Directed at me? Uh-oh.
Yes. Sorry, what is 6 and 1? I'm unfamiliar. Could you explain what that is?
It's because I never finished it is a saying about equivalency, right? So it is, the full saying is you've got 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other, right? Which is, of course, all things being equal, right? 6, half a dozen. Is it a Southern saying? 6 in one, half a dozen in the other?
Probably, but then you make it even more confusing when you don't say the whole thing. When you're just like, you got 6 in one. That's confusing. I just
figure that people know that saying. Maybe it's more prevalent in the South.
Well, we got that guy in Norway who's like, oh, you kill 2 birds and get stoned. He is on board with your half question.
I stand by it. Okay, how about speaking of motorcycles, Cycle boy. I'm
Sure, it's a
assuming.
bicycle.
Bicycle. Cycle boy 8028. You guys talk about prosecutor argued this or that. Please explain. Why can't we use the same DA's words in prior trials with theory and rationale in our own trial? Why is the DA allowed to totally flip their position on what isn't rational behavior, et cetera, to tailor their legal thought just for the purpose of convicting the person here today? Shouldn't legal positions be consistent, at least within the same DA? Oh
God, I
boy,
wish
that would be
that.
justice,
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
that would be great. Well, there's two parts to it. I mean, the first part is prosecutor statements aren't evidence,
Correct.
so they're not admissible in trial.
Correct.
And then on top of that,
Well, when the prosecutor's asking questions of a witness,
right,
that's not evidence. So
yeah, the
whatever they're trying,
responses.
yeah, the responses are evidence. Whatever they're trying to elicit with their questions is technically not evidence, but of course the jury's hearing it.
Yeah.
So that's the rule, is it's not evidence, and the closing argument isn't evidence. Opening statements aren't evidence, but the jury's still hearing it.
But and I think people, and it's gone away a little bit, because we have video surveillance and things like that. But the rules that govern what we're allowed to talk about it's called rational inferences. And so if you take the evidence, you string it out, and if the things that you're saying, because obviously we're not there, we're not witnessing exactly what happens, if it is a rational inference based on the evidence, then that's fair game. Everybody's allowed to talk about that. So I say a really extreme example up in Montgomery County was they have a dead guy on the ground. There's a cigarette, and the prosecutor had argued. So he went over, put the cigarette in his mouth, lit it, let him say his final words, and then executed him. I mean, there was a cigarette on the ground. He was on his knees when he died, and we got our dead guy. So who's to say that didn't happen? And so that's one of those rational inferences things, and that's what we see show up.
I've got one right now regarding an AR found on a body and an open car door, and the prosecutor is on appeal, but the prosecutor had argued at trial basically that the client went in and took the AR out of the car and staged there was no evidence of that. None. But open car door, AR on the ground, AR belonged to the dead guy. Rational inference.
Right. You make the argument to the jury. The jury decides what the facts are.
So that's step one, is they're allowed to make rational inferences, and they will always make them against you. Step two, why doesn't it matter what they said about the last guy that was probably totally not in opposite, by the way? The answer is your trial, and this really confuses people who have never been in trouble before but watch a lot of crime TV. And by that I mean like Law and Order.
You love you love Sam Waterston, right?
I love Sam Waterston. So it confuses people because you see these trials and you're like, oh yeah, they're talking about everything, right? Which is like, you think about like, okay, I'm on trial for my life. My life should be the picture. No, you are on trial for your life. The picture being given to the jury is that tiny little snapshot of time where the alleged crime occurred. That's it. So not only is it not like, well, I got character witnesses to say that I'm a really great guy. That doesn't matter in your guilt innocence trial. What happened to you a month before this probably doesn't matter unless there's a rule of evidence that will let it in. And what definitely doesn't matter and is not relevant and is not admissible is anything that lawyer has said in a previous trial, because it has nothing to do with that photograph of you in that moment during the alleged offense.
Yeah, I'd say, Ren,
not fair.
No.
But that's why that happens.
Didn't plan on talking about it, but I think it's worth pointing out, this is where, and these are the cases that are so frustrating to me, is like when you have that nightmare neighbor who you have like 10 years of bullshit going on, and then they have that incident where you're forced to defend yourself, and it's like all that lead up and all that knowledge, not admissible.
Yeah.
So
it's so unless there's something so specific, right?
So it's so important that defensive incident stand on its own 2 feet, and that's what makes it real difficult in those kind of continuing.
Sorry, I told you I'm allergic to outside.
You're allergic to fun is what you're allergic to.
Allergic to outside. Okay. And the outside is prevalent in Houston right now.
Yeah.
Weather's changing. It's changing.
Why didn't they bring Xi Jinping here? Because then we'd have clean air and whatever. They turn all the factories off.
Sure.
No, I'm not going there right now.
No, we don't. I'm there. Let's start a different channel on politics.
Yeah.
I'm listening to enough Ben Shapiro. I'm getting hot.
So Emily, when are you people ever going to quit whining about the Second Amendment and implement the Second Amendment?
Oh, I love that. We get versions of this question all the time. When are you so-called lawyers going to actually do something about it? Well, here's what we do. I will say, twofold, here's what we do.
First,
We are lobbyists. We are
Yeah.
registered lobbyists. We go lobby the government of the state of Texas for good gun laws and good self-defense laws every session. And we are very proud of strides that we have made here in our great state. Number one. Number two, what do we do about it? We defend people who are accused of gun crimes.
For people who implement the Second Amendment.
But we defend the Second Amendment for people who the government is trying to trample for exercising their Second Amendment rights and their rights to self-defense. I'm very, very proud of the work that we do.
Yeah. It stinks because it's one of those deals where, as broad of a field as, even though we do guns, there are so many like FFL compliance, self-defense, suing the government for violations of rights. I mean, I can just think of a dozen different categories, and it's really, really difficult to be great at all of them.
No, you can't be. And in the most fundamental, right? I mean, we're not even talking about like, I sue the government in 1983 versus I sue the government for violations of the Second Amendment. Those things are different.
Yeah.
When we're talking about the criminal world versus the civil world, like that's like
Different.
the broadest distinction you can make. So different.
Yeah.
You can be really, really good at one of those things. You're not going to, unless you are a super genius, which I assure you we are not. You are not going to be, even though it's both guns, right?
Right.
We are not going to be super good at both of those things. So were we the guys initiating lawsuits for the Second Amendment, we would be not super good. I mean, we've talked to people, we've done some advising on those cases, but that's
I would
not
love
our
to get into it
forte.
eventually.
That's not my will forte.
I would like the firm to do it eventually. We need to
But
bring, the problem is we need
bring somebody in who does it.
Correct.
And we need to give support to that person, and we need to learn from that person.
Because we see these cases where people are suing for, deprivation or violations of the Second Amendment. And a lot of times those guys aren't actually gun people.
They're constitutional law people.
They're constitutional law people, and they don't really know the gun stuff, which is, I mean, as crazy as that sounds.
You want the constitutional guys to be initiating the lawsuits because they're still going to do a better job than the criminal lawyer.
Right. And I've heard this from the constitutional lawyers. They're pissed off when the gun people or the criminal lawyers make constitutional arguments.
Right.
Because we muck up the record.
Correct.
And so when they go up on appeal.
As we are prone to do.
As we are prone to do.
Yeah.
When we go up on appeal.
Makes their lives harder.
It makes their lives harder. And so it's one of these things where there is better and better communication going on, I would say. And the people leading this effort, huge shout out to the Second Amendment Foundation. I think they are really doing a fantastic job.
Yes.
Getting the lawyers together to talk. I wish they would do one of their scholars forums again. They didn't do it this past year, but that's all right. All right. That's minor complaint. But the different lawyers who do different things are, I would say, starting to talk more than they have more than I've ever seen.
Yes.
So
and
that's
that
awesome.
Is good. More on this note. So when are we going to do something? We do things.
Yeah.
I do things. The other thing we see is people who are like, why are you advising people to comply with the law even though it's unconstitutional? It's like, well, I, Emily Taylor, would love to be the ultimate dictator, emperor of the United States in which I get to decide.
Benevolent. You'd be a good one.
I would be benevolent. In which I get to decide this is the law and this is what you can obey and this is what you don't need to obey and this is true and this is false. I am not that person. And so number one, if I advise you to break the law, I am sending you to prison, which is the kind of thing that they take my law license away. What do you need your law license for except to get a bunch of money? All right, lawyers don't make that much money. Step one. I cannot. I literally, if I want to keep being a lawyer, cannot. Literally, Linda, cannot tell you to break the law, number one. Number two, like, I'm not leading the law breaking charge. I like not being in prison. I like raising my babies. Like, I am not
You're an unprincipled hack is what.
I suppose so. I am not going to fall on that. So I'm not going to be like, you know what? Government, here's my unregistered SBR. Well, what are you going to do about it? Because I don't want to go to prison. Like, I want to fight it in the legal channels that work because that's how we fight it. Like, I just...
Well, we're getting 2 to 3 bills passed every session.
Yeah.
At least. We're talking to 500 to 600 people involved in critical incidents each year. We're...
As a law firm.
Yeah, as a law firm, not just us individually. Not just us. Yeah. And then just a bunch of non-emergency, hey, I want to sell my brother-in-law a gun. I mean... a couple of thousand of those a year. I think we are way more effective not handwriting motions in a jail cell.
In a jail cell. Plus, I don't like bologna.
I said it.
There, I said it. I don't like a bologna sandwich. Have you heard that? No, you haven't. Miranda Lambert has a.
I don't know what a Miranda Lambert
Miranda
is.
Lambert. All right, you didn't spend years of your life in Nashville, Tennessee.
You're right. I did not.
She's got a song about being way too pretty for prison. You know, you don't get champagne.
Was she though?
Yeah, I like her. I'm Team Miranda. Blake Shelton can go right to hell.
Who's the opposing
with his
side?
Gwen Stefani new girlfriend, wife, or whatever is happening.
All right, next.
You don't know. I am the Russian spy, and you know nothing of the Blake Shelton saga.
Do the pop music?
You think you're better than me?
This is kind of what I'm saying. Gear floater. My question is, how does the average person afford $500 to $700 an hour when a prosecutor is rolling the dice and just wants to punish you with the system?
Yes, that is an excellent question.
That's a really good question.
I appreciate that question.
So, do you think, and I don't know the answer to this, do you think because most criminal defense attorneys are, at least this is in the state of Texas, I imagine it has to be everywhere, or flat fee?
Yes, in the state of Texas, it is unlawful to charge by the hour, so you have to flat fee.
So I imagine it's probably that way in other states too.
Probably.
Because
it makes sense.
It's one of those deals where the state is saying, hey, if you're going to represent someone, it needs to be, whatever you need to do to defend this person. And they kind of prohibit two big things for criminal cases in Texas: hourly rates and then contingent. Like, I only get paid if your case is dismissed.
Right.
Prohibited. So I imagine it's that way in the rest of the states.
Probably.
So what you can look at, and it's going to depend, felony, misdemeanor, all these different things cost different amounts. So we're not really looking at hourly, but what attorneys will generally do is say, hey, this case takes me, 40, 80, 120 hours to accomplish. Yeah. And they take that rate and apply it. And then that's generally how we arrive at our numbers for things.
If you find that the case is very, very complicated and you need lots of time to prepare,
it costs a lot.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the idea is like, okay, I have charged this person, let's say just for the sake of nummies, I've charged this person $5,000. I can't then be like, well, I'd love to work harder on your case, but it's taken me longer, so you're going to have to pay up more, right? That's the reason behind it, right?
Sure. This is what I think. It falls into like three categories. We have people who can't afford a lawyer, so they get one from the government.
Right.
These middle-class people who can't afford the lawyer that they need.
Right, but don't
qualify. And then the third category of people who will just, whatever it takes, take care of it.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the three categories that I see.
Most people fall into the category of, I don't qualify for a court-appointed attorney. Most gun people.
I don't qualify for a court-appointed attorney, but I cannot bend out the nose for the defense that I need. It's so sad.
Yeah, it is. The horrible thing is you put down that retainer, you have an attorney fight until probably it's time to go to trial. And then that attorney says, look, our contract also has a trial fee because that's how criminal lawyers do it. You have if you don't go to trial, this is the fee. And then if you go to trial, there's an additional fee for trial because trial is taking a lawyer out of their office for week or weeks at a time. Yeah. And so that costs the lawyer lots and lots of money. Also, the preparation it takes you away from your business, costs you lots and lots of money.
Yeah.
And so you have people, unfortunately, who get to that point and they're like, I would love to take this case to trial. I cannot. I've already sold stuff and taken out a second mortgage and I cannot afford a trial fee.
Yeah.
No, it really, the system and the government and the jackbooted thugs, I've used that word so many times today already, who are prosecuting you without reason to make a point, know this. They know that they have the financial upper hand, and I do not know what the solution is.
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean, I've seen people go to their church, get the collection plate. I mean, I've seen everything happen in order to get the adequate defense. It's not a good system. It's the best system out there, but it's still not a good system.
Yeah. I mean, like, let's say you get the free court-appointed lawyer. You still don't know what you're getting.
Right.
Some of them, amazing.
Yeah, and it's different it's different because some places have like a dedicated public defender's office.
Correct.
Their budget mirrors that of the prosecuting attorney's office budget, and you would, those things.
Yeah. But they're still kind of overworked.
Yeah.
And young.
And the problem is the state is the gatekeeper.
Yes.
And so
state has all the power.
State has all the power. So apart from just access to unlimited information, and then having the power of the state, and then even if your budget is equal, like, you're not equal.
No.
So going back to the question, how do these people afford this? It's one of those things that, I mean, hopefully you have a God only knows fund, you have an emergency fund. This is one of those things where it's probably something you need to set money aside for. Not that we ever want anybody to be in this situation, but unfortunately, the system is the punishment, and it's not fair,
No.
and it's expensive.
And, some of it is like, I mean, lawyers, contrary to popular belief, are human beings.
I can't prove that.
I have taken a murder case pro bono because it was the right thing to do. It is not something that I'm not
Will
saying
ever do again.
I can't say that, but it's not something I do very often because, again, the time that comes away from your actual law practice to do something for free that is that intensive is prohibitive.
That was a good outcome too.
It was a good outcome. You have lawyers who are willing to do some work pro bono, although that is very, 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 very rare. You also have lawyers who will set you up on payment plans and,
Right.
oh my gosh, you have lawyers who are like, I'll buy your guns from you as I don't know if that's legal everywhere, but
my father's a lawyer. He got 3 horses as payment one time.
So,
Which he thought he was being a hero for. He has 3 daughters and thought 3 horses, 3 daughters. Like, that's
what about Richard and William?
I don't think I was I was so little. I wasn't a horse. I was not capable of riding a horse at that point.
Okay.
But it ended up being the most expensive fee ever collected because he had to fence and land.
Yeah, horses are really expensive.
Well, he had to fence and land. Then he had to drill a well. Then he had to build a shelter.
Well, you got to take care of them.
Yeah. And then they kept escaping. So he kept having to hire people to go, like, lasso him down.
Yeah, he did that case pro bono.
That was a pro bono case.
When it really, said and done. Let's go back to pistol braces.
Oh, okay.
This is a good one. If, heaven forbid, the injunction is overturned in the future, do all of those who have braced pistols become instant felons again? Interesting. We do not know. So let's say you do not have a brace pistol, but you've seen the injunction issue, which we talked about in previous videos, probably linked, Jen.
Jen's linking it.
Jen's linking it as we speak. Thumbs up. So you have just now, you've been like, hey, injunction's issued. I can buy one. And I found an online retailer who isn't like, back ordered to all hell.
Right.
I'm going to buy one. And then, case doesn't turn out the way we think it's going to turn out, will you become an instant felon? The answer is, we have no idea how any of this stuff's going to play out. My guess is, however, that number one, you could still just simply remove the brace from the pistol and be fine.
The crime is possession.
The crime is possession. And they have to issue another amnesty after this. They have to, because people are going to acquire them after this injunction. So it would be crazy.
Yeah, we had the discussion about mistake of law. People are under this preliminary injunction. What is a reasonable time to comply? If you can't see my eyes rolling back into my head to look at my brain.
Yeah, no. What'd you see back there?
Nothing.
Lots of beer.
There's nothing left.
Lots of American-made beer.
It is.
Yeah.
But you'll never know what this is.
I know. We don't have to do that, right?
Legally, this is hilarious. I just think it's funny because we don't have to do it. That's why I think it's funny.
All right. I'm going to start drinking out of the champagne bottle in a second here, and everyone can see what it is.
All right.
We're done.
Yeah. Okay.
We hope you enjoyed this.
Yeah. This is my favorite type of sidebar.
Because you get to drink? Oh, no. Favorite type of sidebar.
Yeah. I like answering folks' questions. Silly, real, otherwise.
Okay. I'm into it.
Okay.
I mean, I also just like talking about myself, which was kind of the last one.
Let's see those in the comment section. Great job, Emily. She loves it. All right. But we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm. I'm not playing around when I say that. When I say the anti-2A algorithm is messing around, it is. Comments, likes, sharing, all that stuff goes a really long way.
Please question and comment for us below. As always, if you like the question format, we will answer more of them next time because it's fun for us
Yeah,
too.
it is very fun.
Yeah. All right. Until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.
Thank you, SDI. Deporting dead people.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
Good job, Texas. They keep the beers cold.
He can't have the aluminum cups, Jen.